All right, welcome back to the Consecrated Life Project. Thanks for joining us. This is the place where we get to talk about embracing your mission, doing it with God and with faith along the way. Today, our guest is Arden Compton. Hi, Arden. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's start out real quick here. Just give me a quick 2-minute about you. Tell me about you.
Well, 2 minutes. I'm happily married. I have 7 children, 1 boy and 6 girls. I live in Brigham City, Utah. We've lived here for, 13 years now? Something like that. Anyway, long enough, I'm not sure. And I have my own business, helping people remove mental and emotional blocks in their life. And I help people with all kinds of stuff. I've worked with pornography addiction a lot, but I've worked with a lot of stress and chronic pain and limiting beliefs and sabotaging patterns, and help people with a wide range of concerns, allergies of all kinds. And anyway, so I love to help people. I like to say I'm in the business of setting people free. And I believe in the principle that Christ taught when he said, the truth will set you free. Or actually, he said the truth will make you free. It tends to fall out of my mouth that the truth will set you free. Same principle. And I find that usually when we can help people figure out what the truth of the matter is, it sets them free. And it's a matter of aligning with the highest truth that we need to align with. Yeah, and I am an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and believe very firmly in what we commonly refer to as the restored gospel, and am very excited to just be living my life and doing my best to do what God has sent me to do.
That's beautiful. Okay, so tell us a little bit, how did you come to find your mission and your purpose? How did you come to find yourself in this state of, I really feel like this is where God's calling me and my purpose here?
Well, a lot of trial and error over the years, and thankfully God's tender mercy of nudging me along some certain pathways that I didn't know I should be going down, pathways I didn't want to go down initially. And I remember as a young man, if we go back to when I was in high school, I remember going to a high school counselor, and he wanted to help me start out on some career path. And so they gave me this paper with a whole list of possible careers. And I was supposed to mark what I was interested in. And I remember looking at that career list and just kind of shrugging. I think I was maybe 15, 16 years old, right around there. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and I'm thinking, I have no idea. I'm clueless here if I want to do any of these. And I marked PE teacher, physical education teacher, because that was the only thing I liked in school was PE. I really didn't care for any other subject and didn't enjoy school at all. And I thought, well, I like PE. And I didn't know. I never became a PE teacher, but I simply didn't really know what to do. And nothing on the list jumped out at me as, yeah, I want to do that. And fast forward a few years, I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and came home. And again, there I started to think, okay, what am I going to do? And I really struggled. I had a lot of friends that went to school. I moved to Provo, where all my high school friends were, and they were all attending BYU, and I wasn't. And I was just working, and they're all like, go to school and pick a major. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, because nothing really connected with me. And eventually I did go to school, and I even eventually got a master's degree in agronomy, which is agriculture, because I like growing things. I'm like, well, I like growing things, and I don't want to be stuck in an office all the time. So anyway, I ended up there, and never was able to be successful with that master's degree. Throughout my 20s and early 30s, I got fired from 3 different jobs, which was always devastating and just always left me feeling like the biggest loser in the world and wondering what the heck am I supposed to do? And ended up taking a job when I was around 33, I don't know, somewhere around there. I took a job in an industrial shop that I absolutely didn't align with. I'll just say it that way. But it paid the bills. It just paid the bills, and we had a farm we got in a farm that I was trying to make work, and worked roughly between the farm and the job 60 to 80 hours a week, depending on the season, for 8 years, and never really got anywhere. And I kept applying for jobs, or trying to apply for jobs with that I could get through my master's degree, and never got another job. And along the way, I ran into a guy that did what we, in a very general term, call energy work. And he actually was somebody that I went to church with, and I tweaked my knee playing soccer with some kids one day. And after a few weeks, I still felt my knee was a little off. And so I thought, oh, he's a chiropractor, I think. I'll go see him. And he didn't do any of the traditional chiropractics. He didn't push or crunch. He didn't take an x-ray or anything. He held a spot on my knee down here. He held a spot on my knee right where it hurt. And then he held some other spot somewhere on my head. And he said, think about how you feel about the pain in your knee. And in my mind, I'm just drawing a complete blank. How do I feel about the pain in my knee? I have no idea. I don't know that I feel anything about the pain in my knee. It's just there. I don't know. Anyway, so I didn't know what to think about that. But when he was done, my knee felt better. And I thought, what the heck was that? That was just plain weird. But my knee feels better. Okay. I have to acknowledge my knee feels better. I don't have any idea why, because when he asked me to think of something about my knee, I couldn't even think of an answer. But somehow my knee feels better. That is just too weird. So I left a little a little bit in disbelief, but also a little curious. How did that work? Why did that work? I didn't know. I mean, this was brand new to me. I had no idea what was going on. And I went back to see him again, off and on, a few times a year. You know, maybe every 6 months, maybe 2 or 3 months would go by, whatever. Anytime I thought I needed a little adjustment of any kind, I'd go back to see him. And he always did the same kind of thing. And I never knew what he was doing, but I always felt better in some way. And one day I left his office, and I'd probably known him for, I don't know, roughly 2 years. I don't know for sure. And I walked out of his office one day, and I felt lighter, as in light on my feet, like a cloud of depression had cleared that I didn't know was there. I felt really good. And I thought, wow, I would love to help people feel light like this. And it was the first time in my life I had ever said I would love to do something. Up to that point, it was always, well, maybe I could do this. Maybe I should try this. I wonder if I could do that. Maybe this. Everybody says I should do this. Maybe I should go to school. Maybe all the maybes and what ifs and should tries, that I was just always frustrated and never really felt like I was going anywhere in life, and I always felt like a really mediocre underachiever. But the first time, and I didn't really recognize it at the time, it was kind of in hindsight, I realized that was the first time I had ever said I would love to do something. And the wheels started spinning in my mind. And long story short, I could drag this out longer, but
we got more questions, so we'll do the short version today.
Right. Long story short, 6 years later, I took the leap and said, okay, I'm doing this. I kind of sabotaged it a few times, but said, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. Quit my job, quit my farm, and just jumped. And for the first time in my life, I was really lined up with what I was supposed to do. And, you know, I now thank God that I was never happy with any of those other places. I was always looking for something else. I always said I'm supposed to be doing something else. No matter what I was doing the first 40 years of my life, I always felt like I was supposed to be doing something else. And I didn't know what. It's like, this isn't it. It's something else. And actually that's still a little bit there, because I sense there's more room to grow.
There's always more room to grow.
So I'm still supposed to be doing something more than where I am here. But I'm really grateful to be where I am.
That's awesome. And I can see the light in you. Like, you feel, you're giving me the energy, the feeling of, I really love what I do now.
Yeah, for sure.
I kind of get the impression I wouldn't have got from you 20 years ago. Or 30 years ago, or however long ago it was.
It's been 16 years ago that I started doing this. 16
Cool.
years ago. It was this month. It was June that I took this big leap. I think it was 16 years ago. Pretty sure that's right.
Awesome. Okay, so if you think back on your journey and you were like, okay, I got to go here, I got to go there, was it pretty clear that when you found this, you're like, okay, this is my path, I'm 100% in? Or did you feel like God was maybe taking you this way and then you kind of had to get your mortal brain to be quiet and say, okay, God, I'm in? No matter how weird this might seem, and no matter how much it doesn't make sense logically, yes, I choose it.
That's why it took 6 years to go from when I first had the idea to actually doing it. Because my mortal brain kept saying, you can't do this. Who do you think you are? You're just a farmer. You're nobody. No, you can't. You're not going to be anybody that anybody's going to look to with respect, or nobody's going to see you as credible. Come on. And so, yeah, that took me a while to overcome a lot of self-doubt, huge amount of self-doubt. I had a Grand Canyon of self-doubt that I needed to overcome. But when I finally decided to do it, at that point, I was all in. Got through that 6-year phase, and finally, when I took the leap, I was all in, and there was no going back. That's why I quit my job. I burned all my bridges, and this is it.
Did you have a specific thing or specific moment of something that got you from, okay, I feel like I'm still digging through this Grand Canyon of self-doubt, to, okay, I think I've dug through enough, let's do this? Like, was there a pivotal moment that sticks out in your mind of this journey that you've been going through?
No, there wasn't one pivotal moment. There were some opportunities to take some coursework. And the first opportunity came way, way, way back when I very first had the idea. And I went back and talked to the guy who was the chiropractor, and he showed me a path of what I could take. I said, well, I can't. And I sabotaged it with my disbelief, my unbelief, and self-doubt. I said, well, I can't do that. And a few years went by, and somebody else came along with it, saying, hey, you could take a 10-day class in this certain technique, and you could do this, and you could be good at it. And a part of me is like, I'd love to, but I'm just a farmer. And it was 2 more years went by, and somewhere around there, again, there wasn't a specific moment, but this time that this guy came back with the 10-day class, who I crossed paths with, and he said, you could do this. And at that point, I was so sick and tired of my mediocrity, so sick and tired of being stuck, so sick and tired of nothing working out for me. And I chatted with my wife about it, and we both felt good about it, and it was just a decision. We're doing it, and it was just right. And at that point, we were dialed in, and occasionally a little self-doubt came up. I said, no, I'm doing it. No, I'm doing it. And, God's been very, very gracious and giving me a lot of chances to get it right.
I love that. He doesn't wait for us to be perfect. He just waits for us to be willing.
Yeah. Yes. Well said. Well said.
Which is super powerful. Okay. So amidst this journey, so you opted in, you're working on this, you're doing what you feel like your soul is calling you to do. Resistance comes up, opposition comes up for all of us. What do you do when that happens, and how do you get through it?
Well, there's a lot of ways that you could, I'll share with you one example.
Yeah. Give us your go-to.
What's that?
Give us your go-to. When something comes up and tries to stop you, or you're working on a project and it feels like it's falling, what is your thing? What do you go to first?
Okay. Well, the first thing is prayer. Okay. That is without a doubt first prayer. And I love attending LDS Temple. Those are my first 2 go-tos. But I'll just share with you one experience that I had, and this is, I'll try to consolidate this, but one of the things that sabotaged me for a lot of years, well, this is the best story. Okay, let me just tell you, a lot of times a person will have, rather than getting into the nitty-gritty of this personal experience, a lot of times a person will, as they learn and grow and progress, they step to a place that they've never been to before in life, where things are better, whether it's better health, or a better marriage, or better finances, or better spirituality, or whatever. Life is better. And there's a part of us that has already accepted, I belong in this place over here, and we grow and progress to this other place. And a part of it says, what are you doing here? Yeah, this is great, but you don't really belong here. This isn't really the real you. Come on, get back to where you've always been. And I ran into that in finances. I've run into that in my marriage. Those have been the two main places where I've run into it, was finances and marriage, where things got better than it had ever been. And a part of me wanted to just go back to where I was, even though I didn't like it there. And it's a very sabotaging pattern. And so doing the EFT tapping, I don't know how familiar you are with that, but that was really one of my main ones. When I would run into that and I would start feeling uncomfortable in a better place, I would use the EFT tapping along with prayer and scripture study and some good basic spiritual practices in my life. EFT really helped me to clear out those limiting beliefs and the false identity that said I belong in a lower place when really God wants me to be in a better place.
Yes. Awesome. Have you read The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis?
No, I haven't. I've read some of his stuff, but I have not read The Great Divorce.
So I hadn't either. We heard a talk by, what's his name? Motivational speaker. I lost his name.
It's okay.
Anyways, he's like the John by the way of the new generation. I'm trying to think of his name. Anyways, but he mentioned it in one of his talks. And so my 11-year-old decided he was going to read it for his 5th grade reading report. It's like 200 pages of this deep C.S. Lewis stuff. Okay. So we read it all together, and it was interesting reading through this because it was like his story of a dream that he had of like the people in hell going on a bus to heaven and what it was like for them. And this experience of like the angels coming to them and being like, okay, you can stay here. And they were like, but I don't belong here. And they would get back and they would leave because they were uncomfortable at this higher level. So I found it was interesting that you shared that.
It's very common. It's very, very common. A person works really hard to get to someplace better, but they don't sustain it because they don't feel they belong there, and they begin to feel self-doubt. They begin to feel anxiety. They might start to feel depressed. They might feel physically sick. There's any number of ways that can be sabotaged to go back to where they were before. I've seen it in tons of people I've worked with, and I bumped into those artificial ceilings at different levels many times myself.
Yes. I've heard it said also that lots of times people think I ran into a wall and I'm just stuck, like I can't go farther. But if they actually go up, it's just a step. So it's like a staircase rather than a wall. So if you just think if I just go higher, then yes, you're going to expect that there's another wall you're going to hit, because then you're going to go higher and hit the next one.
Sometimes I tell my clients that wall is just made out of rice paper. It's not that big a deal.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Once you finally get through it, you realize, oh, I thought it was made out of cinder block. It was rice paper the whole time.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like I hear people talk about like getting out of your comfort zone, but it seems like it's such a big thing. If you just dissolve your comfort zone and evaporate it, then you're good.
Yeah, but so many of us, and I include me in this, felt we need to keep struggling with the same things we struggled with. So many people go back to the same struggle, rather than struggling, learning, progressing, and moving on. The adversary says, no, you just stay over there in the 1st grade. You don't get to move to the 2nd grade. You're just going to struggle there.
It's okay. Yeah, there's a difference between the I don't have money struggle and the where do I give my money to charity struggle. So let's choose the higher struggle, right? Who am I going to share it with? Awesome. Okay. Did you have any of those moments? You kind of maybe already covered this. You can tell me if you feel like there's anything else you want to say on it. But when you felt like you were going and then God course corrected you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Along the way, I definitely, there was a period of time where I really became too egotistical. I jumped on this journey. Things were going great. And suddenly, instead of making $20,000 a year, I was making $50,000 a year, and then I was making 80 and 90 and over 100,000 a year for a while, and I thought it was pretty hot stuff. And I started to write a book about success, and the name of the book was going to be Unexpected Success: How to Have More Success than you were expecting or thought possible. That was going to be the title of my book. I thought I had it all figured out. And just really close to the time I was about to okay, I think I've got this book about finished. I think I've got it all figured out. Suddenly the financial spigot turned off. I mean, big time. I went from over 100,000 a year to 40,000 a year in 1 year, and then down to 30,000. And I was like, okay, I don't understand what happened. I'm everything that I wrote in my book and everything that I had been doing before, I was still doing, and now none of it's working anymore. And I didn't understand what it was, and it was simply God humbling me and teaching me that there was an even better way. I had made a really good step, but then I got too much ego and too much of me. I wanted to be the picture of success, where I could tell people, here's how I've done it, here's how you can do it.
Yeah.
And I realized that wasn't God's plan for me, and I had to get myself out of the way. And I had some humbling experiences before I finally was able to turn around and say, you know what? It's not about money. It's not about me. And I've really made a switch. My wife and I have really kind of shifted and said, we're not here to build a business. We're here to do whatever God asks us to do. And it's not my business. Any business I build is going to have a very short lifespan compared to eternity. It's not about me building a business or me being the picture of success. And he took away so much stuff. I ended up maxing out some credit cards. I had a car that was repossessed, and just went through some embarrassing things. And here I at one point considered myself a success coach, but then all of a sudden I'm losing everything that proved that I was a success. And ended up realizing, okay, it's not about me. And I just got to make sure I'm doing whatever it is that God asked me to do. And I had a really kind of a sacred experience just 6 or 9 months ago, I don't know, within the last year or so, where I was considering on this and how the Lord had really reshaped me and kind of chopped me down and got me going a little on a better path than the one I was on. And I remember thinking about how I had wanted to be the picture of success. I wanted to be the guy that everybody could, say, here, hey, we can all do what he did, and we can all be successful. And wow, let's all praise Arden Compton. That's kind of where I was. I wouldn't have said it out loud, but in my ego, that's where I was. Anyway, I remember thinking about how glad I was that the Lord had given me those humbling, refining fires along the way and yanked the rug out from under me. And I had an impression that came to me, which was even further humbling. And the thought came to my mind, in the end, your only success story will be that God has been gracious to you, an unworthy servant. I said, wow, that's my whole success story? That's a really short book. But that's it. That's my own. I can take no further credit for my success than God has been gracious to me, an unworthy servant. And I'm just trying to do what he wants me to do.
I love that. And you think you just answered my last question. It was there a time when you felt like you look like, to the world, you look like you might have failed? And
Absolutely.
Through that. Because from your perspective of the worldly, I want to be all this success. I want people to see me. From the outside looking in, that would be like, oh my gosh, you just lost everything. It's horrible. But what did you learn through that turned that seemingly worldly failure into a success?
Well, one of the greatest things about it is freedom. I feel so free in my life. I mean, really, the truth sets us free. And since I don't work for money anymore, all the money that I have is a gift from God, and I don't ever have to worry about where the money is coming from, or how much is going to show up, or when it's going to show up, or where it's going to come from. I'm simply unattached to it. I try to be as unattached to money as I am to the air that I breathe. I know that I'm going to have air tomorrow. I have no idea where tomorrow air is going to come from. Will I have enough air to get to the end of the month? Absolutely. I don't know how. I don't know where. It's just going to come. But I've really learned to take the scriptures, take Christ's word literally when he says, take no thought what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, but seek first to build the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added. And so I really do my best. Now, I'm not telling anybody else how to run their business or their life. It's not my call. Okay, I've really learned that. You know, not only am I not the picture of success, I'm not the one to tell anybody else what path they should be taking and the details of their life. Like general principles, but not in the details. And so, but for me and my wife, we do our best to not count our money because there seems to be more when we count it less. And somehow we always have enough. And even when we went through our little drought there where the Lord just pulled the rug out from under us and we didn't seem to have anything, and we almost lost our home, and we did lose a bunch of other stuff. And even then he gave us enough. And right now there's a roof over my head. You look up there, there's a roof. And there's food in the fridge, and there's a car in the driveway. It's not the fancy car I used to have, but it still gets me wherever I need to go. And that was another really humbling thing. I drive. We have 7 kids, and so you know, with me and my wife and the 7 kids, that's 9 passengers when everybody's in the car. Well, your vehicle options drop dramatically when you need a 9-passenger vehicle. There's just not as many. I mean, there's a few, but there's not a lot of options. So we got a 15-passenger van back in 2011 or something like that. So there's enough room for us and the kids, and all our other vehicles ended up getting repossessed except for the 15-passenger van. And for a while, I was embarrassed to show up at professional meetings in a 15-passenger van, because that is not the picture of success.
I drove one for years. It's still in my driveway, so I totally get you.
But I've learned, you know what?
I love it.
It just doesn't matter. It gets me from point A to point B. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so it's that process of really learning to trust. I had another really profound experience one day, just considering Christ's miracle of the loaves. We fed the 5,000 with the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. I don't think we chatted on the phone a little bit back. I don't think I mentioned that to you, did I? I don't think so.
I don't know if we did or not, but I love that. I have a 30 by 40 print of that in my dining room.
Yeah. Anyway, so I one time was thinking about it, and I pictured myself being there in several different positions. At first, I put myself in the back of the crowd. If there's 5,000, I'm in the last row, and one of the last of the last. And I see that bread is being passed around, bread and fish, and people over there are eating. Is there going to be enough for me? Holy cow! What if I don't get my? What's happening up there? And I don't know if I'm going to get any or not. You know what? There was never any need for me to worry about it. God was always going to provide some for the people at the end, just as much as he did for the people at the beginning. And there's nothing to worry about. He always had a way to provide for me. And I could relax. And just because I couldn't see where the bread was coming from didn't mean that the bread wouldn't come. Okay? I was not in control of where the bread would come from, or exactly when it would get to me, or what flavor the bread might be. Or how were those fish prepared, and were they raw or were they cooked? I don't know. But anyway, it was that letting go of needing to be in control of it and just letting it flow. But I also realized I pictured it another way. I saw myself as one of the disciples that he says, hey, go pass around this bread for me. And I pictured myself, what if he handed me a loaf of bread and he says, go feed that group of 50 over there? Would I have had the faith to take a loaf? Your child's fine. What's his name?
It's Kyler.
Okay. Anyway,
the whole world who's going to watch this later.
What?
Say hi, world.
Hi.
This is how consecrating your life looks. Sometimes you love your kids while you're on video.
That's right. Anyway, would I have had the faith to take that loaf over to a group of 50? Or would I have said, wait a minute, Jesus, you're missing something here. You haven't given me enough to do what you're asking me to do. Are you trying to make a fool out of me? Why are you only giving me 1 loaf and asking me to feed 50 people? Come on. I'm afraid I might have done that and missed the miracle. But then I spun it around again a little bit and I said, okay, what if I see myself passing around the bread and people start complimenting me and say, wow, this is amazing bread. You've done a great job. Thank you so much for the bread. Could I take any credit for the bread?
Yeah.
If I did, which I actually was what I was guilty of for a while in my work. There was a time I was taking credit for the bread, so to speak. And I realized I can't take the credit for the bread. I came with no bread. All I can do is say, thank the giver of the bread, because I had nothing to give you when it was just me.
Yeah.
And so all I can do is give the bread that Christ has given me to help others. So all these things, I really learned to just be unattached to the details of how everything works out, unattached to exactly how the money is going to flow, unattached to exactly what direction my business is going to take. And there's been several shifts along the way. At first, I used to work with a lot of chronic pain. And then for a while, I was working a lot with addiction. And then I've shifted. And I still work some with both of those. But now there's really a big mix between just a lot of different things. And there's been a lot of different shifts along the way. And I feel like I'm still morphing, shifting and changing along the way. And it's an amazing journey. But the freedom of not having to worry about when or how are things going to work out, I just don't worry about it. I have a little affirmation that I often say, I already have everything I need. Through the grace and mercy of Christ, I already have everything I need. So whatever happens next, even if it's the worst news possible, it's going to be fine. It's all going to work out.
I love that. All right, you'll see me typing because I'm typing notes for the blog here.
Okay.
Okay, one more time. I already have everything I need through the grace and mercy of Christ.
Yeah.
So everything else is okay? Or how did you say it?
So no matter what happens next, even if it's the worst news possible, it's going to be all right. It's going to work out perfectly. There's perfection in the imperfection. And that's, I studied also the life of Joseph in Egypt, and there for 12 years when he was a slave in Egypt, it looked like everything was going wrong and nothing was going in the right direction. And just when things would start to go good, they would go bad. And it must have been really frustrating for him. But all along, it was going the right direction. He just couldn't see it in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to trust. You know what? Even if it looks like what just happened was huge disappointment, big step in the wrong direction, you know what? It'll be all right. Because I've had those. Again, getting fired from 3 different jobs. Every time I thought it was a failure and a step in the wrong direction. Hindsight now, many years later, I can look back and say, wow, it worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
That was perfect. But
yeah.
Could not see it at the moment, though, at all.
It was more a refinement and a redirection rather than a failure.
It was big time humbling for sure at those moments.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate your time and your talents and all of your story and sharing. I'm sure that's a great benefit to the people who watch these, because I know that they're on the same journey, and to realize that it's not what anybody else says, because everybody who says, do what I do and you get what I got, you're not meant for their path. You've got your own. So
yeah. Well, let me share one other nugget with you, if I
awesome.
can.
Yep.
And this is just my thoughts. You can agree or disagree, and your viewers can agree or disagree. But going back to the miracle of the fishes and the loaves, I've really looked at that and considered that. And there's a scripture in John 14 that says, "He that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works shall he do." I've wondered about that. It's like, how is that even possible that I could do anything greater than what Christ did? I'm sure outside his infinite atonement. But I look at what he did as an invitation, not just a demonstration of what he could do, but an invitation of what is possible for us.
Oh, I totally agree with that one.
So as I look at when he fed the 5,000 with the 5 loaves, and when he turned the water into wine, and if we look at our world that we live in, there are 3 limiting factors of production that everybody in the world stresses over, and it's land, labor, and finances. Okay, those are the 3 limiting factors of production that affect everybody. Not all of them affect everybody all the time, but one or the other, or a combination of the 3, will be affecting any one person at any given time: land, labor, and finances. And this is what has the attention of most people is hijacked, because they're afraid that there won't be enough of one or 2 or all 3 of these. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Land, labor, and financing. And the idea I can't survive, the big fear is I won't be able to survive unless I'm in control of my land, labor, and or finances. And that's what has everybody hijacked, or most people hijacked, and they're paralyzed with this. Okay, I've got to make sure I've got this covered. And I certainly wouldn't want to encourage negligence or apathy or irresponsibility regarding this. I don't want to go that direction. But when I look at Christ feeding the 5,000 to 5 loaves and turning the water into wine, I realize land, labor, and financing were not limiting factors of production. They were not factors at all. The land that it should have taken to grow that much grain, to produce that much flour, to produce that much bread, wasn't needed. How many fish should have been caught? The labor and the financing needed to do the farming and the fishing and to make the bread, all of that was simply bypassed. And there was enough. And the same thing when he turned the water into wine. Wait a minute, that should have taken a lot of time, and that should have taken more money, and that should have taken acres of grapes or something. And yet land, labor, and capital financing were all bypassed. And so there's an invitation for us that we can create a society as individuals and as a society where land, labor, and finances are not limiting our lives. We don't have to be hijacked by them or distracted or fearful because of them, but again, come back and trust that God will provide. Now, we need to work hard in life. Work is an important principle, but what do we work hard at? And most people are working hard at finances and land and labor. That's what's taking most people's energy. But Christ said, work hard to build the kingdom of God. Mm-hmm. And so we should be working hard to build the kingdom of God, but most people are too fearful about these 3 limiting factors of production to actually focus on building the kingdom of God the way they could if they let go of the fear of these things.
Yeah, so they're functioning out of fear instead of out of faith. Right.
So just putting that out there, something that really connects to my heart is we're here to create a Zion society, and in a Zion society where we are of one heart and one mind, pure in heart, land, labor, and capital will not be the limiting factors of production, and we can truly work with an eye single to build the kingdom of God, and He will provide. He's already offered to pay, to feed us, but we're so afraid He won't. We go and make sure we do it ourselves anyway. So those are just some parting thoughts. We're here to establish Zion, and it's things are changing in our world. And I have found, again, as I really done my best to let go of any fear around these things and just relax and let it flow, He provides. And it's great to be free, to just feel free and not have to worry, okay, how am I going to pay my bills next week or next month or next year? I don't know. But you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't have to know. For 16 years, it's been this journey of stretching my faith to where God has finally said, okay, are you done being afraid of this stuff? Because there was a time, especially when kind of the financial rug got pulled out from under us, there was this big fear. How are we going to survive? And the big message that I learned through that financial drought was, don't fear. It's going to be all right. And so anyway, there you go.
For sure. Awesome. Okay, I have one more quick question for you, and
Oh,
then we're going to stop the recording, and we'll do some quick fire questions. So we'll start another one. So don't you hang up, even though I stopped
okay.
the recording here.
All right, we're good.
Okay? So my question is, so you have this rare faith perspective on the world. I share that with you. What do you do? Like, do you share that with your family? Do you share that with people in your neighborhood? And what is the reaction that you often get? And how do you hold to that faith when other people think, oh my heck, you're nuts?
Okay, I'm very selective who I share it with. I'm sharing it with you, but I'm actually I share it with my wife and my wife is, I couldn't be here without her being 100% with me on it. It just, we've learned, we really need to learn to be one. And like a battery has different posts, that you got different polarities in a battery. Anyway, there's a power flow. When you connect opposites, there's a power potential. And so me and my wife have learned we're opposite, but we've got to learn to be one. And so she's in on it with me. But I'm very selective. And most people, I don't share them with them exactly where I'm at, because, well, I guess I try to follow the Spirit on what I say to who.
Yeah.
And as I work with my clients, I try to share these principles. But I realize, depending on where people are at, I mean, if you had said all this to me, 20 years ago, I would have said you're crazy.
Yep.
It's a line upon line. I've read several books that have influenced me. Approaching Zion by Hugh Nibley. I don't know if you've ever seen that book or not.
Yeah.
I love Approaching Zion by Hugh Nibley. That's really changed some of my thoughts. The Triumph of Zion by John Pontius has really influenced some of my thoughts on that. And then just the scriptures. But anyway, so I'm very selective. And when people, say you're nuts or whatever, then, or disagree with me, I don't debate it with them. I just, it's like, okay, everybody's where they are in their journey, and I can't demand everybody be where I am on my journey. And I'm not saying I'm in a better place. I can't judge where anybody's at on their journey. Everybody's on their own journey, and you love people wherever they're at. And God's tutoring everybody along, line upon line, precept upon precept, and it is what it is. So I'm very selective. If there's resistance, I don't worry about it.
That's true. Awesome. The name of that speaker I was looking for earlier was Hank Smith. And another moment, he was talking about being the same on the outside as you are on the inside. And he said that.
Okay. I have heard the name. I'm not familiar with any of his stuff, but I do remember hearing his name.
It's really good. If you've got teenagers still, they will love it.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, but he was talking. Oh, I just lost it. What was that last thing you were just talking about? You talked about the books.
Yeah, the books and not worrying about letting people be where they are.
Yeah. Okay, so it was about sharing with different people different things. And he talked about how someone with an opinion and there's someone with an experience. So like not letting your testimony be weighed based upon somebody who thinks it's bunk or has studied whatever else. Because once you've had this experience with God and this experience with the Spirit, that experience will trump anybody else's opinion any day. So whether or not they think of it, you're like, wow, I've got this experience, so I hold that. And it's stronger than the opinions of others.
Well, it is something, I appreciate the question, because we are influenced by the mindset of those around us. And we all need truth reinforcement. And so one of the reasons I'm selective is because if everybody's, casting doubt on what I'm saying, it makes it harder for me to believe. And so I share with selective people, but I'm also careful because I don't want them to throw all their doubts at me and slow me down. It's challenging enough. One of the phrases, going back to the lesson of the loaves, 5 loaves and 5,000. One of the impressions I've had is God has said, you got to learn to trust what you can't see more than what you can see. And that's hard enough to do under the best of circumstances, let alone if everybody's telling you you're an idiot or you're doing it all wrong or do it this way or do it that way. it is challenging. So I am careful about who I share it with.
Awesome. Well, I feel too like it's that don't cast your pearls before swine.
Yes.
When I first came up with the Consecrated Life poem and where this all started, I just remember feeling like, okay, this is like sacred. This is my heart. Like, you want me to share this? What do you do? And I had printed all of these bookmarks and I took them to this conference, and it wasn't a faith-based conference. It was just more of a secular one. And I was like, okay, if you want me to take this, you're going to have to protect me. And literally my prayer was, give me angels, bring me the people who want and are ready for what I have, and don't let anybody else know that I exist. So like that they won't even see me. Like, hey, you have to like give me this comfort that I've got this heavenly force around me while I'm going about to do this. And I literally had someone walk up to me in the middle of the hallway, and I was just like, hi, how's it going? She looked in my face, she screamed and turned around and ran. And I was like, cool, thank you, God. Like it was like that confirmation for me of, okay, he really is protecting me. And so as I go forward with the Consecrated Life Project and everything else I'm going on, it's like, it's okay for me to collect you and all these other people who are really trying to live according to God and share their stories. Because I feel like so many of them don't, that they are in the marketplace or in the world or whatever, and they don't share the deep core of how they function and the strength that comes that's beyond their own. So I love that we can share it in this space, and that the angels are bringing the right people and casting out the ones that aren't ready for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us. If people want more information or to get a hold of you, where is your website, or where would you like them to go, where to email to get a hold of you?
As far as my business goes, from fear to hope.wordpress.com is a blog I have, From Fear to Hope. I was going to have it be Fear to Hope, but then people might think we're afraid to hope. We're not afraid to hope. Going from fear to hope.wordpress.com is a blog that people can text me personally, 435-890-4737. I'll be sure and answer relatively soon if they text me. If they want to see the work I do with addiction, done a lot of work with pornography addiction. I have a different blog on addiction called Wholesome Lives, all one word, Wholesome Lives .wordpress.com. WholesomeLives.wordpress.com is the addiction one. General stuff is From Fear to Hope.wordpress.com.
Awesome. I will put all that in the blog so people can link to it, make it super easy for them to find you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. You have a wonderful day.
All right, thanks.
Bye.